In our previous video, we made an app where we can combine elements into molecules and find out what they are. For example, this one is atmospheric oxygen, where we have two oxygen molecules together. Then if I take a carbon and combine it with an oxygen, we get carbon monoxide. Now in this series of videos, we're going to take that concept one step further. In our simple model, we can only combine two elements, and it's a fairly rigid process because we have to hard code all of the possible combinations of elements. It's not very flexible. What we want to do is we want to consider how we can make some more complex molecules out of multiple elements. And more importantly, we want to consider how we can be flexible in nature. One thing we don't want to do is program this with every single molecule known to science at this point. That would be too much, and that list is always changing. It would be better if we could let the community contribute molecules, and that way we could also have different levels of complexity. So first of all, how are we going to create molecules? Well, we'll use our existing user interface. We're going to use those balls or the elements. Then what we're going to do is we're going to add an image sprite. So a ball is a type of image sprite that just happens to be a circle. But we can make our own image sprites out of our own images. And we're going to add one that is going to be basically a box or a rectangle. And essentially, when we drag the balls into the box or the rectangle, that's then going to register them. Okay, what else do we need? We also need a text area so that we can label a molecule when we've made it. So if we bring in two hydrogens and two oxygens, we need a text area where we can call it hydrogen peroxide. We also need a button to save the new molecule once we have moved all of the elements into the image sprite. And we're going to want to save all this for the moment in TinyDB. We might think about some centralization as well, where we could take this information and store it on an online database, something like that, so that all of the different games like this could share. Okay, so that's creating the molecules. That's kind of as an administrator what we would do to create molecules. Now we also need a molecule quiz, which is what students or learners will take. In this case, we're going to read from TinyDB. We'll pick a random molecule. We'll use a randomized function in the math grouping that just says, okay, if we have 12 molecules, pull one at random, pull number 7. Totally random. What we're going to do is we're going to show the molecule name in a label. Let's change this to molecule name in a label, like hydrogen peroxide or carbon dioxide. And then we're going to challenge the user to make it. So when the user makes it, he or she is going to drag the appropriate elements into the image sprite. And then the user will click on evaluate. And then we need to say, hey, did you drag exactly the right elements in? Now, for that, we're going to have to get a little bit tricky here. What we're going to have to do is every time we drag an element into the box, the image sprite, we're going to want to register it in a list. And then when the user clicks evaluate, we're going to take a look at all of the molecules in that list, and we're going to compare them to the molecules that we've stored in TinyDB. And we need to make sure we have an absolute match. We also need to handle some other things, like what if the user drags an element back out of the image sprite? Then we're going to need to remove it from the list. So we have a few tricky things we're going to need to consider, but this is essentially our design. So we'll probably take a series of videos, but I'm excited to get started. So watch on. This video is part of a playlist. So if you like, watch on and you can see how we're going to put this all together. Thank you.